from Geek Girl Authority. And my
Hey,
question,
Julia.
hi, my question is for
Hey.
Andrew. Obviously, being the son of the utopian and pretty much
Hmm.
the de facto leader of the younger generation, it's a lot of pressure on Brandon's shoulders.
Hmm.
Um, there's also that little bit of like internal crisis about not knowing like how to deal with the code and everything. How is that really preparing for that role and knowing like the overall things that are going to happen?
So for me, knowing the overall things that were going to happen made playing out what happens in season one so much more enjoyable than I think if, I'd just gone in as Brandon is in the comic books. We encounter Brandon as this much more emotionally complex guy, and he's really, as you say, the guy who's in charge of the younger generation. So for me, in terms of preparation, that was, physical. I spent a lot of time in the gym to get bigger for the part because you want to look like a superhero as well as pretending to be one. I broke down all of my scenes and did something called intentioning, and you write down sort of what motivates you in that scene and why, and found myself putting together playlists to match certain scenes as well to get me into a particular emotional state should I need it. But also, reading the comics beforehand to prepare to see the journey that Brandon goes on, and to then come back to this more naive and, you know, I'm trying to find the word. He kind of like sees the world with rose tinted glasses, I suppose. So to be playing that, required me to play maybe slightly younger than my actual playing age as well, which was fun. To then sort of develop and mature more as we go forward. I hope that answered your question.
It did, thank you.
No worries.
May, you may go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm May with Screen Rant, and this
Hey.
question is for all of you. I know that Jupiter's Legacy is based on a graphic novel. Did you do any reading to prepare for your roles? How did you delve into your characters?
Yeah, you want me to take this one? I can start with this. Cool. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Mark Miller. I grew up reading a lot of his stuff. I grew up reading, Civil War, The Authority, and when I read for this part, something felt very familiar. I was like, oh, I think I understand what this is. And then when I was testing for it, I realized it's Mark, and then I was like, oh, I definitely know the themes that he's exploring here, and I definitely know the kind of the idea of values meets like politics meets how do you the ideal versus how do you implement. And so then I went and read Jupiter's Legacy, and I was like, oh, this is exactly on par and on brand with Mark, and I knew exactly where to go from that. So I just sort of went to work on trying to figure out how Hutch fits into this dynamic where you have like this somewhat didactic, I would say, like code that has been established for 100 years, and then like who's the guy that's going to drive a bus through that wall?
And Lyra, you may go ahead.
Hi, I'm Lyra from Fangirlish. I have a question for Elena. I wanted to ask you, how was it jumping into these shoes, especially like the superhero moments when you fly? How was that for you? Is it like a dream come true? You've always wanted to do something like this?
Okay, well, I'm gonna do a double whammy because May asked us, and I'll answer you both. So, first of all, because it goes hand in hand, I'm not. You guys probably could teach me a few things in the comic world, but I did not grow up reading comics, though I love Mark's movies. But I was busy having tea parties and frolicking around in meadows. I don't know. But when this project came along and I Googled, Jupiter's Legacy, what is this? I recognized the names behind this, and then I saw the pictures and the visceral images, Frank Quitely's illustration. I was like, oh shoot, this is amazing. I was like, I love this cool character of Chloe, and I tried to research all that I could. I did not read the comics until after I booked it, because as I've said before, I don't like to read the books, because then I get too attached and then I get possessive, and I'm like, if I don't book this thing, my heart will be crushed. So I don't want to get too emotionally invested as possible. But then once I booked it, I was like, get into this mythology, find out everything she does, her abilities, her family. I want to know what she eats for lunch. So got into that. And then in bringing her character to life, like through the training and like, okay, how was that? It was very exciting for me because I loved how the training aspect of it, we got ready like a month or so before we started shooting. We were doing like wushu, Filipino martial arts, Krav Maga, all kinds of things, some Muay Thai, which Mr. Ian Quinlan is like a master of, by the way. But that was really cool to delve into all these cultures through training. I particularly love Chinese traditional ballet, so I love like how that related obviously with wushu. So that was really cool. A big thing that for me was like overcoming my fear of heights, because I don't know about you, but like I get, it gives me heart palpitations, and I didn't realize until the day we were getting in the harnesses and I saw like Andrew soaring through the sky in our sound stage, and everybody was getting in. I was like, oh wait, I gotta like, yep, get up there. How does that? And then the nerves kicked in. But once I got in that thing, you know, it was riding up, chafing an area, so I was very uncomfortable. However, we had an excellent stunt team. We got a great crew on the show. They walked me through it. I eventually conquered it, and I felt liberated. I felt empowered, and I was like, this is great. So that was just a highlight, if that answers your question without rambling.
Jimmy, you may go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jimmy from Bleeding Cool, and I would like to ask Andrew. I am constantly telling my kids to always try to do the right thing, just like the utopian, and just as an example to show other people what the right thing is to do. So I was wondering if you can tell me a little bit about the code that's on the show and how your opinion of the code changes over the course of the story.
Yeah, so the code is kind of like these guidelines which are set out by the Utopian and the original five once they received their powers back in the 1920s. And, you know, it's essentially to do good, to not interfere with, you know, political and social, religious, you know, dynamics that are within the world, within the country, and it's to not kill. So it's a pretty broad code that they have, but it's fairly specific in terms of not interfering and not killing, and above all, you know, doing good. And for Brandon, that is what, you know, he lives his life by. That's what he aspires to be. He aspires to be his father. And in the present day, what the younger generation are finding is that the code feels slightly outdated, perhaps, and maybe some of the ideals that have been upheld for so long and have been, you know, just idolicized, is that a word? Or put on that platform, aren't necessarily in keeping with how they want to see the union going forward. And for Brandon, what particularly changes his opinion, without giving, you know, too much away, is the fact that there's a big event within the show, where, you know, it's a matter of life or death for his parents, and he chooses to save them at the expense of someone else's life, and that fundamentally changes him. It changes his parents' opinions of him. It changes his peers' perspectives of him as well, and it really makes him question, well, you know, what's worth more, you know, my parents and my friends, or someone who is out there to take us all down? And that is the question which then bleeds into the rest of the union, and, you know, what Hutch tries to pick apart, you know, the entire time by you know, challenging this you know, culture of what's effectively almost oppression, but in a very light way. So yeah, I think Brandon, by the end of the series, is completely disillusioned by the code, and is disillusioned by his father, and is maybe looking to move from the union, perhaps.
Great, thank you. Also, let me real quick. Great job, guys.
Thank you very much.
Laura, you may go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I am Laura from Reart Entertainment News. My question is for Ian. How did Hutch end up with the power rod that was originally Richard's, aka Blue Bolt?
Ooh, okay. I'm not sure how much I can say about this, but I'm surprised that you caught that. I've been telling, like, it's right there in front of us. I don't know why nobody has seen Blue Bolt holding it and then me holding it. Nobody's drawn that connection yet. good question. I'm trying to figure out how to answer this without giving away any spoilers. If anybody wants to hop on and give me some advice, that'd be awesome.
What was the question? How does Hutch come into possession
by
of
the power rod?
I think we got to
when it's
keep that
originally
mystery alive. You know what, Laura?
I think here's the question. I think
for catching it though.
Yeah, I would say kudos to you for catching it. And then the question, I'm going to throw the question back at you, and I'm going to say, is it the same power rod?
I do not know, but that was something I caught because it's not in the family.
Laura, you would do a great job in the continuity department of a crew. You would slam dunk.
Yeah, I guess you'll have to find out.
That's a comic book question, isn't it? That's one for Mr. Mark.
It's obvious though that Hutch is worthy.
Absolutely. I loved your character.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's not Mjolnir, bro. Calm down.
Wayne, you have the next question.
You guys, Wayne, where's the buzz? First of all, you guys all have interesting characters and everything. I want to know if you guys could switch with switch characters with somebody else on the show. Who would it be?
Hutch.
No.
Brainwave.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man.
Nick. Oh, Nick, you are muted.
I clicked it twice. Why would I click it twice? Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time. I guess to piggyback off of the Hutch question, Ian, the two things that we sort of know about the character are that he's a supervillain's kid and that he has a badass power rod. So can you talk about, I guess, playing a supervillain's child, and I guess how the two main elements of your character aren't directly addressed and will presumably be addressed in a different season. So like how was it playing something that you didn't even get to, I guess, answer?
Sure, yeah. I think there were two driving factors, both kind of related to my father. So we see that George is not in the Union anymore. He's on the run. He's on the lam. So that creates two problems for Hutch. One, the Union broke his family up and ruined his life essentially, or left him fatherless, leaving him stranded to pick up the pieces and have to fend for himself from day one. So you'll notice that like my father might be on the lam, but where's the Union been in my family this whole time? Where nobody came to visit, and there's no like, why does nobody know who I am? You know, this man, he was left.
Why aren't we best friends?
Why aren't we best friends? You know what I mean? And so you have this kid who grew up fighting for everything because this Union destroyed his family. And simultaneously, that's I think we will come to find that the situation wasn't so black and white like everything in Jupiter's Legacy, and that actually that the Union might actually have something to atone for, and that their legacy might be a complete and utter sham along with this code, along with the Utopian. So I think I as Hutch am also I'm on the search for answers, both from my father and both from the Utopian and the Union, to perhaps expose the counter narrative to their so-called legacy.
Pay attention.
Maya.
Thank you. That was a great question.
I am Mael for Fandom Warrior. First of all, I want to say congratulations. You guys really did something with this show. I absolutely loved it. What I love about this universe and about the show in general is the authenticity of the characters and the very raw and real relationships between the characters. So Elena and Andrew, can you talk to me about building this relationship? You guys are siblings, and Elena, your character is obviously so complex and so dark. How did you build this relationship?
Well, that is the relationship, isn't it? It is the classic kind of Shakespearean familial, like brother, sister kind of thing going on here. I don't know. Could it go tragic or could it go in a different direction? There's a lot going on, a lot to unpack. Great question. I feel like, again, in reading the comics and delving into that world, that mythology, I was like, okay, there's an arc here. We're gonna have to live up to this and make sure it comes off the page. Luckily, in meeting the wonderful cast that we have and Andrew playing my brother, like I did feel, and hopefully that shows on screen, that there was a chemistry there, and I felt like his support. I felt like I just felt there were so many swirling emotions in the scenes that we have together, and that I felt from him. It excited me because I found layers that we were discovering in the moment that like we were kind of expounding off of what was on the page. And that's the most exciting thing when you're, for me, like when you're acting out scenes, like when there's surprises, when there's discoveries made, and when it's from the other person kind of lifting up your game, and it's like, whoa, this is cool, I didn't even think of this scene in this way. And then you have a wonderful director too, kind of saying, challenging you, like, hey, why don't you try it this way, that way? Yeah. That's cool. Because yeah, this is a really important relationship in the show. And I do think, he's her older brother. They're both protective over one another. I think she feels like she sees him, she's trying to warn him, like, bro, stop it. You're not going to be able to live up to this ideal that's impossible to live up to. It's perfection. It does not exist. It's a symbol, and it's just going to destroy you. I'm already destroying myself. She's in a self-destructive kind of mode, and it's because she's just feeling so much pain, and she doesn't know, like, she's just navigating these different coping mechanisms. And kind of self-sabotaging herself, but she doesn't want her brother to go down that road. She's seeing how he's like trying to keep up with it. He's trying to keep up with it, and it's like you don't fly too close to the sun. But it's a beautiful relationship, and I do hope that I just felt such support from him in those scenes. So it was a joy to get to have him as my bro.
No, I would echo sort of all of what Elena said. I don't know sort of how much time we have left on this question, but what's interesting about the real life relationship between us as well is that as with Chloe and Brandon in the series, Chloe has much more experience in a lot of areas of life than Brandon does. Like, Elena's a much more experienced actor than I am, and to get to work off someone else's expertise like that, and then to have that coming into the scene was amazing, because this was my first big job. So to be working with actors of such a high caliber, and then have them raise your own game, as Chloe is trying to help Brandon, Elena helped me to raise my performance. So there's nice little bleeds from real life to the screen.
And another cool thing too is like how you can parallel, there's so much of like this thing of perfections and symbols of worship. I like to look at it through a mythological lens again. I'm a proud Greek girl, so I always go here, and I keep saying this, because I just love the parallels. Like, I feel like Chloe is like the Artemis of the gods and goddesses. She doesn't want to marry. She wants to be a warrior huntress in the woods and wants to do her own thing against the status quo. I feel like Brandon is like, who's the brother to Artemis? Anybody know in the mythology?
Apollo.
And
winged boots.
And then I finally settled on who I think Ian is, but Ian, you got to weigh in on this. I feel like he's a bit of Hephaestus, because Hephaestus is the god of masonry and like gadget building, like a blacksmith. Like, he makes, like, he's working with metals in the forge. I feel like that fits him well. I don't know, but you.
I thought the demigod Achilles, but whatever.
Oh. Like, I was gonna say the god of mischief here.
Oh, or a bit of Dionysus.
All right, and Julia, you may have the last.
Thank you all.
And Julia, you may have the last question.
Okay, so this question is for Ian. So you were the only child of the original 6 so far that we've seen that doesn't have any powers. If you could have your own, what would they be? Like, that's not anybody else's, just yours.
I really do like the ability to teleport, like the movie Jumper. Like, I could just go anywhere and have like a million vacation homes, like one in Antarctica that's full of stuff I've stolen, and like just be able to like go to anywhere with like flip a switch, wake up every morning and like surf in a different country, and then go to dinner in a different country every other night.
Take me with you.
Of course.
Perfect. Thank you.
Where's the buzz? Where is the buzz? You said was mine.